what eventually was the inspiration to go independent, or were you just kind of forced to go independent?
Yeah, no, I wasn't forced. I had a really cush job working in my own little project on at Volition, getting paid quite well, and stock options and all that stuff, and but I'd always had a dream of being an indie studio and working on our own projects. And so a couple of longtime Volition veterans came to me and said, we're starting a company. We're going to do Xbox Live Arcade games. That was when Microsoft rolled out their Xbox Live Arcade, where basically just small teams could push out games. And it wasn't like, AAA budgets. They were smaller titles. You could do it on your own, smaller budgets. And it was a very sort of eye-opening experience. You could create IP and own intellectual property, and I knew the value of that. And so they asked me, they said, okay, we're going to start our own company. We'd like you to come with us and be sort of our biz guy, our design guy. And I said, okay, well, what are you looking to do? Like, well, we want to do a co-op Zelda game. And I was like, how many people are you going to have? Like, oh, just us 3. I'm like, that's a bit ambitious. I said I had this idea that I've been tossing around in my head for a bit, and I was like, I was a big fan of Super Dodgeball for the NES. And I said, why don't we remake that, but have pirates and ninjas battling it out on the dodgeball court? But it's literally in 3D assets, 3D environments, but Super Dodgeball gameplay. And that was sort of, they were like, yeah, we love it. Come. And so I left. I didn't have a family. I wasn't married, didn't have kids. Right. So why not roll the dice?
Yeah, and that was kind of a weird time, right? Because that was like before Steam had self-publishing, before mobile games allowed you to self-publish.
Yep.
And so you went independent in a time where you were still completely dependent on publishers and the existing infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah, the time, back then with Microsoft, they wouldn't give you dev kits unless you signed with a publisher. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have access to any of the hardware or anything like that to make anything unless you signed with a publisher that had those rights to publish games. And so, that was my job, was to find that deal. And I did. We signed with, back then, Gamecock. If anyone remembers that, that was way back in the day. But yeah, Gamecock was our publisher for that game.
Yeah, basically the Devolver Digital's predecessor.
Yeah, it was Devolver Digital's predecessor and God Games' successor.
Yeah. Yeah, so why did they pick you as the biz guy? I mean, you were a game designer. They just decided you're good at business, and now you're the biz guy?
Yeah, they said that I was personable, and that I was personable. I looked good on camera. I did a lot of promotion for Saints Row. I did MTV interviews. I did New York Times interviews. They really pushed me as sort of the face of the game, and so and I had friends. So these Volition veterans had been, it was their only job. They'd started their careers there. They had no contacts within the industry at large. And I had been, I was big part of the Dallas gaming scene. And I had a lot of friends in the Dallas gaming scene, and I knew a lot of people at Gamecock. And so that was one sort of, it was their way to gain access to that sort of side of the industry.
And I guess you're saying they knew where their strengths were. They knew they were like nerdy developers who really weren't good at that. So they kind of figured you had a complementary skill set, and that's...
Yeah. I mean, I came from the indie lifestyle or the indie scene. I worked at Ritual Entertainment, and that was a Dallas scene, and they had made games for God, and at Ritual, there was a point in Ritual that they slimmed down and got down to like 13 people. And this was after Heavy Metal Fact 2. And there was no CEO. The CEO left. So everybody was like, they were all about projects. They were all about work for hire projects at this point. And so I kind of took it upon myself to go out and did the publisher pitch process on my own volition, so to speak, and got deals. And so I talked to them, that was part of my interview process, was telling them what I did, and they just thought I'd be good at it.